Hey guys, welcome back. Ethan and Brandon here again to discuss what is going on in the world of the Cubs and baseball at large. Uh, Things have not been going super great recently, though there are always some positive stories to take away. Just last night, Ben Brown, Cubs rookie pitcher, threw seven no-hit innings. The Cubs won a game against the Brewers, did unfortunately take it to extra innings, but it was an important win, and Ben Brown has looked great the last month or so.
He's really kind of held his own as this kind of prospect of ours. I mean, we've said it time and time again, but the Cubs have had so many injuries this past season. We're so early on in things already. He came to fill in for Jordan Wicks kind of early on in this season, but so far with just being about just shy of a month into the 2024 season, Ben Brown has really showed up for the Cubs.
Yeah, I think, everyone remembers when the Cubs got him for David Robertson a couple years back at the trade deadline. He was having a breakout season then. Last year, he sort of stalled out a bit at AAA. He was okay, but he didn't have a great season. And he was sort of pressed into action pretty early this year because of the Wicks injury. And he has looked the part. He's gone back and forth between the bullpen and the rotation. Right now, it looks like he is locked into the rotation for the foreseeable future. He is just really dominating as a starter, which is so helpful to the Cubs right now, dealing with all the injuries that they have been. Um, we were talking before we started recording. Ben Brown is a two-pitch pitcher. He's got a fastball and a curveball, and like maybe here and there we'll throw a changeup, but that's pretty much it. And so, what we were talking about, the shape of his pitches and how, his curveball is a very, sort of more 12 to 60, straight vertical break kind of curveball. His fastball is, a lot more horizontal movement, more up in the zone. And it's pretty amazing, at least early on, that he's able to succeed with just a couple of pitches.
It's great to see him pitching because he's one of those pitchers where he can get the batter to swing take after take after take. It's not, he'll get it in the zone, which is great too, and it's mostly that with his fastball, but his curveball tricks the batter time and time again to swing, and that's what I love to see with those kind of pitchers because I think a lot of the time a lot of pitchers go for velocity or they're going for speed, but for Ben Brown, it's more kind of getting the batter to take the swing. And I really do appreciate that about him as such a young player, too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, it helps that he's got a good, a healthy fastball. But yeah, for sure, his curveball, or what's sort of being called like a death ball nowadays, with just sort of the type of break and spin that it has, is his pitch. It's the reason why a lot of people thought he would be better in the bullpen. And maybe down the road that is where he ends up, as maybe a long reliever or a closer type. But right now, he's being efficient. He's finding the strike zone, which was the big question with him last year. And again, it's a function of having a dominant out pitch like his curveball, which I think has like a 50% whiff rate, which is outrageous, especially for a starting pitcher, for a single pitch to get a swinging strike half the time it's thrown. Um, and it's also the function of being a guy who slowly worked his way up the minors for a couple years with the Phillies, and before he came to the Cubs, having to learn that sort of pitchability, that willingness to throw strikes even in pitchers counts, and not just sort of always be reaching around the zone. And it's a big development for the Cubs if he turns out to be this good of a starter this early consistently.
I think the kind of question is what happens when Jordan Wicks comes back into the rotation? Are they going to keep Ben Brown up? Or are they going to send him back to the minors like we saw with other players that were prospects, not that were pitchers, but like PCA, it's hard to say. I mean, Wicks has been out for a little bit of time. He still has a bunch of rehab to go. I think fans are really happy with how Ben Brown has performed. I'm curious to see what Craig Counsell's going to do.
Yeah, it's a good point. The rotation is when it's fully healthy, which is a huge disclaimer.
Whenever that will be.
Um, right now, that rotation looks like it's Justin Steele, Jameson Tyone, Javier Assad, and I think those are the three, and Shota Imanaga. I knew
Yeah.
there was someone forgetting. Those are the four locked in guys. So really, there's one spot open for, Ben Brown, Hayden Wesneski, who's been pitching great this season, Jordan Wicks when he comes back. Kyle Hendricks, who knows what's going to happen with him at this point. We spoke about him last week. Um, And Cade Horton, the Cubs' top pitching prospect, is motoring through the minors right now. He's already at AAA and he's pitching well the last couple weeks. So it's a good problem to have that the Cubs have so much good starting pitching depth right now. I think the first time they've had this problem since like the early 2000s. But I definitely think that at this point you can't take Ben Brown out of the rotation, even if Jordan Wicks comes back and looks great. You know, somehow they have to make it work with him and Tyone, and maybe let Wicks or Wesneski take a start here and there. But I think he has to stay around for now.
I would agree with that completely, and I'll end with this. It's kind of like the Javier Assad situation where he was such this, he came up from the minors, but he had a little bit more experience, but they gave him a chance and he came out as kind of this golden child of a pitcher. And we're seeing it now with Ben Brown. Again, he's a little bit earlier on in his career than Javier Assad is, but again, we're seeing that he's performing great right now. And again, sucks for Wicks right now that he's out on injury and he's doing this rehab. But again, it was the same thing. Justin Steele came out, Javier Assad came in to kind of take over for him, and he outperformed way more than anybody else expected. And I think the same, in theory, could happen with Ben Brown, and maybe that's a blessing in disguise for him.